Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining the Keith Thurman Media Conference Call. Your host for today, Ray Flores, will now begin.
Thank you very much, operator. Greatly appreciated. Thank you so much to the media calling in from wherever you are around the world. We are just over a week and a half away from an amazing night of boxing, July 20th at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas. It is PBC on Fox Sports pay-per-view, all starting at 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific time. On the marquee, the main event of the evening, headline the 8th Division World Champion Senator Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao taking on the WBA welterweight world champion Keith one-time Thurman in the main event. This is the biggest event of the summer for boxing. It is can't miss. Tickets for this event, they are scarce tickets and limited tickets available. And the event is promoted by MP Promotions, Mayweather Promotions, TGB Promotions. They're on sale now, going very fast. You can get them online, AXS.com, charged by phone 866-740-7711, or in person at any MGM Resorts International box office. Make sure you get your tickets now or order it on Fox Sports pay-per-view. And we want to go ahead and we want to welcome a man who is a dear friend of mine. I mean, talk about promoting events all over the world. He has been so instrumental in being a catalyst for boxing, especially when it comes to Premier Boxing Champions. Please welcome the president of TGB Promotions, Mr. Tom Brown.
Well, thank you, Ray. And thanks, everyone, for joining us for this conference call for what should be an amazing Fox pay-per-view boxing card presented by Premier Boxing Champions at the beautiful MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Nevada on Saturday, July 20th. And I look at everything as a matchmaker, and this is a sensational fight. Incredible matchup of styles, and one of the best fights you can make in the welterweight division. And obviously this showdown presents huge implications in the weight division, which has historically always been boxing's premier division. Neither of these fighters really require any type of introduction. This is absolutely the best, fighting the best, and it's about as good as it gets. So thank you for being on the call, and now I'll throw it back over to Ray.
Thank you very much, Tom. Greatly appreciated. A promoter, also one of the promoters for next Saturday, July 20th on Fox Sports pay-per-view, a man who's been a part of some record-breaking events. Please welcome, he is the CEO of Mayweather Promotions, a man who knows how to dress in style, Mr. Leonard Ellerbe.
Thank you, Ray. Man, I can't wait till next Saturday night. This is a terrific fight between two great fighters. Both guys, I know for a fact, are extremely motivated to give the fans a great fight. And I think this fight will be an all-action fight from actually the opening bell, from start to finish. In Keith's case, I know one thing I noticed about the build-up to this fight, which I've been very, very impressed with him about, is that he understands how to promote a fight. He's extremely confident coming into this fight because he knows what beating a guy like Manny Pacquiao does for his career. It not only adds a Hall of Fame name to his career, which Keith already has the best resume out of all the welterweights that are out there now, all the elite welterweights, with the exception of Manny Pacquiao. What it does, this puts him on a whole nother level. And based on everything that I'm hearing from Keith and what he's been saying the whole promotion, he's ready to bring it to Manny Pacquiao on a whole nother level that's never been done. So, again, without further ado, I'll pass it back to Ray and let Keith go ahead and say a few words.
Thank you very much, Leonard. And you know what? It's interesting when it comes to prize fighting is you need a great team around you. And Keith Thurman, who's undefeated, has a world-class team that is with him and has been a part of his career from its inception. It's my great honor and pleasure to welcome his elite trainer, a man who's been in the corner of Winky Wright, Jeff Lacey, and also has been so instrumental in the career of Keith Thurman, a man who I think doesn't get enough credit when it comes to being a world-class elite trainer. It gives me with great honor and a pleasure to introduce Mr. Dan Birmingham.
Thank you, everybody, for having me. Let's get it on.
Thank you very much, Dan. Short and sweet and to the point. Well, now we turn our attention to the WBA welterweight champion of the world, former unified welterweight world champion, hailing and joining us from Clearwater, Florida. Talk about being a part of some big moments. This young man has fought at such an elite level for such a long time. Notable victories over current WBC champion Sean Porter and two-division champion Danny Garcia. And now front and center next Saturday night, July 20th, when it comes to PBC on Fox Sports pay-per-view. Please welcome the reigning and defending WBA welterweight champion of the world with an undefeated record, 29 wins, no losses, 22 big wins coming by way of knockout. Please welcome Keith, one-time Thurman.
Yeah. What's up, everybody?
Opening comments, Keith, in terms of how training camp has gone.
Oh, yeah, this camp has been a great camp. I'm really just happy to be back in the beautiful sport of boxing, happy to be back in the limelight, happy to have the biggest fight of my career. This fight, in my opinion, has always been in the making. I always do my best when I'm an active fighter to bring you guys some of the most exciting fights of the year, and this is definitely one of those kind of fights. I'm just happy to be sharing the ring with a legend, Manny Pacquiao, and have this beautiful opportunity to be performing once again at the MGM Grand and showcasing my skills and my talent to the world, and just, creating my own legacy and leaving my own mark in this beautiful sport of boxing today.
Thank you very much, Keith. At this time, we are going to turn it over to the media for questions. But before we do that, it's great to hear the sense of excitement in Keith's voice. He's so prepared and ready to go. Also, having coming off a victory in January over Josecito Lopez, PBC on Fox. Now we will turn it over to the media for questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions at this time, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Again, if you have any questions at this time, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Our first question is going to come from Dan Raphael from ESPN. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Hi, Keith.
Hey, Dan.
Hey, Keith. As Ray just mentioned, he mentioned your victory in January against Josecito Lopez. And I wonder, from your perspective, was that the kind of tough 12-round fight that you needed to get the rust off after the long layoff with the injuries? Do you feel like that is what will prepare you, in a sense, for this fight to go in having gotten rid of that rust?
Well, it was good. I dropped him in the second round. I could have possibly had it finished in that round, maybe the next following round. But I would have, they would have said, oh, Keith Thurman's back, he's devastating. But, I wouldn't have had a tough fight. And the tough fight and everything that I had to go through, I know what kind of champion I am. And it just takes certain fights and certain challenges for me to prove, how I can fight out of rough situations, tough situations. And in the 7th round, I showed once again that Keith Thurman ain't no punk. You want to fight me? Fight me. You want to hurt me? Hurt me. But, you drop me, you better stop me, and as long as you don't stop me, I'm coming out the champion like I always do, because that's what I do. I box hard, I box smart, and I'm always looking for the W. I'm always prepared to challenge myself. I was bred up in this sport. I'm a real fighter. I'm a real boxer. I'm educated, and Manny Pacquiao is going to get a piece of it one-on-one.
Do you think in a weird kind of way that, yes, you won the fight with Lopez, but maybe because you didn't look as great as you have in so many of your other victories, that the Pacquiao people looked at that and said, you know what, we'll fight Keith Thurman because we don't think he's all that. So maybe your performance, not maybe your greatest, but actually helped you land this huge fight.
That's been the talk of the town ever since they talk about the fight, At the end of the day, who cares, right? Mm-hmm. This still is the most exciting fight of the year. You had Errol Spence versus Mikey Garcia. It didn't hold up to the hype. When Keith Thurman fights, man, it's a great fight. I think Keith Thurman makes all the great welterweight fights from here on out. It doesn't matter who it is. When Keith Thurman fought Sean Porter, it was nominated Fight of the Year. When Keith Thurman fought Danny Garcia, the fans had a tremendous show. When Keith Thurman fights Manny Pacquiao, if Keith Thurman fights Errol Spence, if Keith Thurman fights Bud Crawford, I think Keith Thurman is the new Manny Pacquiao. I think I am the most exciting fighter in the welterweight division today. And not only did I might show some weakness that might give them a little bit of confidence, but outside of that, like Ellaby mentioned, Keith Thurman has the best resume at 147. 2 years out of the game, and I still hold the best resume at 147. So you can't really take much away from me. You can throw some criticism and some shots if you want, but I believe that, like I said, I bring entertainment to the welterweight division. Always have, always will. If I win, I'm your entertainment. If I lose, I'm your entertainment. Keith One-Time Thurman is one of the greatest fighters in the welterweight division today, hands down.
I had one other question for you, Keith. I was watching the Fox Fight Camp series, one of the episodes, and there was a section there where you were speaking to the camera or whoever was interviewing you there about your decision to drop out of high school and pursue professional boxing full-time at age 15 and then drop out when you were 16. Obviously, in retrospect, I guess it turned out to be the right decision because you found yourself a career, and a very lucrative one. But I'm wondering if you could just speak to what it was like early on. You're a 16-year-old kid. You haven't yet turned professional. You're in the gym getting ready to turn pro, and you have a whole series of fights early on, club-type fights in your home region in Tampa, and you're trying to make a go of it, and, who knows if it's going to work out. Can you give me your mindset as far as what it was like to make that decision to drop out of school and not as a guy that was desperate for money coming from a poverty-stricken situation like a Pacquiao, but just to pursue a passion that you thought you could make it in. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, at the end of the day, Keith Thurman is just not a 9-to-5 kind of guy. Know thyself. I've always known what I wanted for myself. I was 10 years old when I said nobody's going to be the boss of me, and I shocked a lot of people with that statement. But I could barely listen to my own mother. How am I going to have a boss? At the end of the day, I was rebellious. I was a dreamer, and I didn't know it at a young age, but I've always been an entrepreneur. And I was going to pursue boxing and hope that boxing opens up doors that allows me to live out my life as an entrepreneur. And luckily for me, I've had great success, and I believe that I will have a life after boxing as well. But at the end of the day, I'm a dreamer. And, you could tell your kids, well, you need this and you need that. And, and I looked at every adult and said, I need to dream. I need to live my dream. And if I fail, I'll listen to every little bit of advice that you have from here on out. But I will not listen to you before I pursue my dream. My dream comes first, and I'll put my best foot forward. And only failure, I'll go back to school at 35 years old. I will pick up a book, and I'll be back on college campus. At least if today I go to college campus, I can afford the tuition.
Right.
I don't have to rely on my mother. I don't have to rely on the government. So, I'm just a different kind of breed. And I was very passionate. To this day, I'm still very passionate. I live off of passion, and it's a blessing to, at a young age, to understand your passions. There's many children who don't have a sense of direction, who don't know what they want to do, don't know what they want to be. Maybe they have a skill set, but maybe that's not what they want to inspire in life. So I'm a very fortunate individual, and I'm very blessed to live the life that I've lived.
You think you'll ever try to go back and get that diploma, or not really worth it at this point?
You ask me, I'm a doctor already, baby. Educated in boxing. I got my doctrine.
I have one question. Thank you, Keith, for that. I have one question for Dan Birmingham. Hello, Dan.
Yes.
I know you were not, with Keith at the very, very beginning of his career as his trainer, but when you heard that he had done that, what was in your mind that they told you about Keith Thurman's focus and desire that at that age he would drop out of high school and go pursue professional boxing? It's a little unusual, let's be honest.
Well, I actually was around him. I was his assistant coach. Ben was his lead coach until his death, but I was his assistant coach for a long time. And, if you know Keith well, he's self-educated. He knows a lot of things that you can't pick up out of books. He learns it. He lives it. So in that regard, education really wasn't in his plans.
Tell him, Dan. Tell him how many dudes I was dropping. Tell him how many pros I was stopping. Let him know, Dan.
Oh, definitely. I mean, he was boxing with Antoine Eccles when he was a 15-year-old kid. Antoine Eccles was a number one contender at one time. And Keith was hanging with him punch for punch. And I knew then, and so did Ben, that this guy was destined for greatness.
Not bad. Thank you very much.
Our next question is going to come from Keith Eidick from theboxingscene.com. Please go ahead.
Yes, Keith, do you feel that too much has been made about what happened in the 7th round of your fight against Josecito Lopez, or do you understand that?
State that one more time. What was that?
Do you feel that too much has been made about the difficulty you had in the 7th round against Josecito Lopez, or do you understand why people are pointing to that as, from your last fight?
Hey, man, you talk about what you see, right? When Keith Thurman first hit HBO, I remember talking to Max Kellerman backstage and said, Max, what did you think about the performance? He said, well, yeah, you did good, Keith, but what happens the day you get hit? And I thought to myself, like, Max, you want to fucking hit me and find out? You know what I'm saying? Because you don't know Keith Thurman. You don't know what I did at the age of 15. You don't know the road that I've been on. But I said, okay, respect. All that you know is, there was a dude named Victor Ortiz at the time, and he got beat up, and he almost cried on national TV. But Keith Thurman ain't a punk, and I'll show you one day. You know what I'm saying? So now you ask him the same question, what you think about Keith Thurman, he ain't going to say, well, Keith Thurman can't take a punch because they seen me take a punch, It's okay. You got to talk about what you see. If you see somebody look weak, they look weak. If you see somebody look flawed, they look flawed. If you see somebody look unconditioned, they're unconditioned. You have to report what you see, and I got caught. I was in danger. I remember after I got caught, and then I got caught again. And then if I got caught again, I got caught again. I got hit with 3 big shots that round. And I said, damn it. I said, you better put your hands up. You better move your feet, because only you know you're okay right now. The whole world thinks you about to be knocked the fuck out, boy. The whole world thinks you about to be knocked the fuck out. Let's get out this round, and let's show them what kind of champion you really are. So it ain't about too much talk, not enough talk. It is what it is. It probably was one of my most vulnerable rounds to my career to date. A lot of fighters would not be able to get out of the round in the way that I did. And to me, it's just evidence of how great I truly am. Because greatness, they have a saying in boxing. It's not about when you get knocked down. It's about what you do when you get back up. But I don't even let you put me down. So it is what it is, man. It's just boxing. It's just another black eye. It's just a sport, baby. I'm not afraid to let it go. If you can beat me, beat me. Josecito Lopez had it right there in front of his eyes. He couldn't close the deal. He couldn't close it.
Keith, was that the most trouble you've ever been in, even in sparring or anything in that round?
Man, probably not. I was scared as fuck against freaking Jeff Lacey sparring him, and eventually he had to tell me, we can't spar no more because you hit too hard and I'm a grown man, I want to knock you out, and you're 16 years old, I don't want to have that on my conscience, so you can no longer be my sparring partner because you just do too much, and I want to knock you out, and you're just, you're a kid. I don't want to knock a kid out. So we had to stop sparring, and I knew he could knock me out. I wouldn't let him, but if he actually connect, you don't got to let people knock you out. They knock you out, So at the end of the day, I really respected Jeff Left Hook Lacey for sitting me down and having that conversation and explaining to me why we will never share the ring ever again.
Okay. Keith, now that you have the 12 rounds behind you, your first fight in 22 months, how much better do you expect to be in this fight now that you have that behind you, and how will you be better in this fight because of that?
Well, I try to explain to you guys from the beginning of the year when the Jose Cito Lopez fight happened, all of 2019 is just Keith Thurman getting back. This is still just a get-back year, But at least I'm staying busy, and I'm taking the momentum from one training camp into the next training camp. I hired 2 strength and conditioning coaches, and I'm just really dedicated, and I'm taking this serious because, to be great requires great effort. We all know that Floyd Mayweather wasn't, one of the best ever because he was able to eat McDonald's and make weight. Is because he was running a lot of miles. He was doing standing sit-ups. He was boxing his ass off and eating McDonald's and making weight, okay? That's what Floyd was doing, So to be great, it takes great effort. I'm applying myself in a better fashion, and I believe that it should show in the fight. I should have a better performance.
And let me tell you,
Leonard?
Yeah, no, I was just going to touch on it. I think with Keith showing some vulnerability in that last fight, I think that this is definitely going to help him in this fight because anytime that you show something like that, then the whole mindset of people, because he might have been, in most people's eyes, as the boogeyman, in the division, per se. But when he showed that he got caught and he was able to come back the way he did, it showed true heart of a champion. The same thing happened when Floyd got caught with Shane Mosley. Not that those are similar situations, but it just shows we saw a different kind of Keith. And I think he'll use that as momentum coming into the Manny fight and have a lot more confidence to, like he said, to be more alert, to be aware. It's just the little things like that help you grow as a fighter and make you a better fighter. And because that's one of the things me and Floyd had this discussion when he got caught with the big shot from Shane. It's showing how you're going to respond back. And he came back and he fought like a dog. He walked him down, and Keith has that same kind of mentality.
Thank you, Leonard. Keith, I just have one last question for you. When we were in New York for the press conference, you said that you probably weren't in as good of condition for that fight as you have been for previous fights. How much better shape do you feel that you're in for this fight than you were for the Lopez fight?
Just far better. I really, people think I'm playing. I really trained myself at night at LA Fitness on a spin bike. That was my conditioning for the Jose Cito Lopez fight. No disrespect to Jose Cito Lopez. I just knew that I can't recall the last time a flat-footed fighter, Spanish fighter, beat Keith Thurman. I can't recall it in my amateur days. The last 2 amateurs that beat me was Charles Hatley and Demetrius Andrade. They were not flat-footed Latino fighters. Styles makes fights, and I knew I could rely on my boxing IQ to be victorious in the fight. And the 7th round proved to me it was a little bit of a gamble. We got out of it, and if I want to look better than that, I should train harder, and that's what we're doing.
Our next question is going to come from Carlos Toro from Fightful. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Keith, and thank you so much for taking time to talk to us. I'm looking throughout the build-up to this fight and the PBC face-to-face and the face-offs you had with Manny and the press conferences. I'm noticing that you're having a lot of fun. You're enjoying the promotion of this fight. Does it feel good, just being back in the groove, preparing for fights, being in this type of environment instead of having long rehabs for injuries and surgeries that you've had for the last couple of years?
Definitely, man. I mean, I'm living out my dream. This is my passion. And, I didn't do a lot of interviews. I didn't do a lot of talk in my inactivity because I like to talk positive. I like to talk action, As being an inactive fighter, to me, there's not a lot to talk about. What am I going to talk about? My struggle? What am I going to talk about? My depression, my sadness? What am I going to talk about? So at the end of the day, I'm really, really happy to be back in the sport. It's a beautiful opportunity. It's a dream come true, and I'm just back living my dream. So, I love the sport of boxing, and, I want to have fun. This is my job. When you go to work, you should enjoy yourself, If you don't enjoy your job, you should get a new job. I love my job, and so, you think it's your entertainment. This is my fucking entertainment.
Yeah, not only that, the welterweight division, this is a great time for the 147-pound division. It's very loaded at the top with you, Manny, Spence, Crawford, Porter. Do you view this fight as the one that does show who the best welterweight in the world is, or do you feel like that's something that needs to be decided with more fights among that group of five that I mentioned down the road?
Don't know, don't care. It's not my job. It's your job to report opinionated things, okay? At the end of the day, I'm living a dream. I'm happy. We're making money. We're making history in a sport that I've always wanted to make history in. All I want to do is leave my mark so that when I walk out from here, I can hold my head up high, All I want is for one day, 20 years from now, when people talk boxing, they'll argue this, they'll argue that, but there's going to be one dude who said, who I really like? Man, I like that kid Keith one-time Thurman. That's my ultimate goal, man, to just be amongst the names, to be a great, to be amongst the names so that there's some fan who will never forget what I've done.
Thank you, Keith, and best of luck on July 20th against Manny Pacquiao. I wish you the best.
Thank you.
Our next question is going to come from Norman Perlestein from the Los Angeles Times. Please go ahead.
Hey, Keith. Thanks for your time. Hey, I was wondering in evaluating the current Manny, the 40-year-old Manny, of his three fights, Horn, Matisse, and Broner, is one more important than the other, or have you looked at beyond those last three fights?
At the end of the day, he's come back strong after a loss. Maybe he underestimated Horn. Maybe he really did fall ill overseas. They said that he was kind of sick the week of the fight. And obviously no fighter is going to pull out of a fight. Styles makes fights. Like I said, he could have underestimated Horn. He could have not trained the same way. He looked terrific against Matisse. And he dominated Adrian Broner, so obviously he doesn't think he's done. He doesn't like talk about retirement. So he's going to come to dominate Keith one-time Thurman, which is something no one's ever done. Right. He also is inspiring to win a world title that he's never won throughout his whole career, because the last time he fought for the Super WBA was against Floyd Mayweather, upon which he suffered a loss. So this is his second opportunity to acquire something that he's never acquired before throughout his whole career. So he's got a lot going for him. He wants to prove his greatness, prove his legacy is one that will never be forgotten, even though it cannot be forgotten. Win, loss, draw, it cannot be forgotten because he's accomplished so much in this sport of boxing. But he still is reaching for greatness at the age of 40, and it's admirable. I admire that within him. I was impressed with his performance against Adrian Broner. It was a week before me. After witnessing him fight, I got out into the streets and I ran at 1 a.m. You know,
you did that time, huh?
Because I did, because it was a week before my fight, and I just watched a 40-year-old man beat a young man, and it was really inspiring for me, because I'm coming off of injuries and I'm coming off of lack of activity, and you know, Manny's just done so much, but he wanted to do more, and of course I'm young. I definitely want to do more, and on the 20th I'm going to show you more.
All right. What can you envision yourself fighting at 40 years old?
Hell no. That's quick, man. My grandfather never liked that I was going to be a boxer. My grandfather on my father's side, he never liked that I was going to be a boxer. My family's all from Ohio, outside of Cleveland. My grandfather was even a Mason, and he told me, he said, if you're going to do it, boy, he said, get in and get out. And he meant it in a twofold way. He meant if you can stop him and get out the ring early and make your money and get out of boxing while you still got sense and you can talk straight. Because, you know, the big thing about fighters back in the day is the punch drunk syndrome. Even Ben Getty used to talk to me about it. And luckily, I'm more than a brawler. I am a boxer.
Right.
And, you know, I'm going to do my best to not take too many shots come July 20th.
Well, that's good advice. Sometimes that's harder to do, but your grandfather sounds like he gave you some good advice. Thanks a lot, man.
A few more of these paychecks, we ain't gonna be here when we're 40 years old. Believe that.
Yeah.
I don't need $100 million in life. I just need a little bit of moolah. I just need some moolah.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, man. Good luck.
Thank you.
Our next question is going to come from Rob Huff from Fight News. Please go ahead.
Hello?
Yep.
Hello? Oh, I'm sorry. Just had a little problem on this end. You know, you're 30 years old. You've had a decade younger than Pacquiao. You've had fewer than half the fights he's had. There's some conventional wisdom that you're not going to take it easy in the early rounds, but maybe you save a little something for the championship rounds and see if a 40-year-old man can take your best heat in 9, 10, 11, and 12. So I'm curious to hear from you and your trainer if that's been part of your thinking.
At the end of the day, I'm going to do to him what I did to Danny Garcia. Bop! What's good? Bop! I'm going to hit him as soon as I can hit him. Bop! What's good? You good? Because I'm good. You ready to fight? Because I'm here. You know? Freddie Roach is the only one that talks shit. It reminds me of the Danny Garcia fight. You let your trainer talk for you. For him, it was his daddy and his trainer. It don't matter, man. You know, Pacquiao knows it's the hands that do all the talking. Bop! You know, from the opening bell. Ben Getty said, go out there and show them your power, boy. He said, I don't care who it is. He goes, when you hit them, they're going to do a pretty little dance. You know, I mean, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to destroy a legend and to create my own legacy. How can I not, Babe Ruth, step up to the plate, point for it, and start swinging? How can I not go for it? You know what I mean? I'm not afraid to let it go. If Manny Pacquiao's the man that beats me, he's the man that beats me. And I'm going to shake his hand after the fight, congratulate him. It is what it is. But when Keith Thurman steps into the ring, you're dealing with Keith Thurman, and he's a bad man.
You had talked a little bit at the previous question that you hadn't been inclined when you were injured to talk about your depression and when you were talking about your sadness. You made it sound like it went a little deeper in your head than just the sort of general frustration that one would expect from an injured boxer. Is that fair to say? Did it really get in your head and shake your confidence and things like that? Hello? Hello?
Hey, Keith, you still there?
I believe we lost Keith Thurman. One moment, please.
Get him up.
We have Mr. Thurman back on the line now.
Brilliant. One thing you'd said in response to a previous question, you weren't so inclined to talk when you were out of boxing. You didn't want to talk about your depression. You didn't want to talk about your sadness. You made it sound like it cut a little bit deeper than just the sort of general frustration of having to overcome an injury. Is that a fair assessment? Was this something that really got into your head and left you wondering about how this all might go?
Well, like I said, I'm a very passionate individual. I'm a dreamer. It's in human nature. Not every day is going to be our best day. And for me, my thought process started to get a little morbid. You know, I started having to ask myself the question, are you ever going to fight again? Is your career over at the age of 28, 29 years old? Are you done? Is all that you accomplished all that you will ever accomplish in your career? And if so, you know, I mean, it's sad, it's upsetting. It's still something to be proud about, being a two-time world champion, unifying the WBA with the WBC when I defeated the undefeated world champion Danny Garcia at the time. But, you know, I'm still in my prime, so, you know, it was quite depressing to start thinking like that. And obviously I got myself out of that train of thought, and getting in the gym also helps because as you're not training, you're not feeling good either. As you train and you lose weight, you know, everybody feels better about themselves, and training is a natural way to increase endorphins in the brain. Like I said, we're human. Not every day can be your best day, and I had some depressing moments and some negative thought patterns at that time, but luckily for me, my doctors kept encouraging that you will be back, and I could have got back at the end of 2018, but I talked to my team, I talked to my wife, and I was encouraged that nothing good was coming out of 2018, so let's just wait for 2019, let's start fresh, let's hit it in January, and, you know, patience can be a virtue sometimes, and I believe we're having a tremendous year. And I'm obviously a lot happier to be back in the sport.
And lastly, some people seem to be unhappy that there's no VADA testing for this fight. Can you share your thoughts on that?
I mean, I've always been a clean fighter. I've been tested throughout my boxing career at all times. Well, not at all times, but whenever they so deem it fit, I'm tested. And there was testing. It might not be as thorough as other fights. I mean, as far as constantly popping up in camp. But at the end of the day, there has been testing, and it was done through the promoters. You know, it's not my job to create testing. I fight clean at all times ever since I was an amateur, a U.S. Striving to be an Olympian. I'm prideful that even my boxing style is pretty clean. You don't see Keith Thurman being warned for low blows constantly. You don't see me being warned for the way headbutts or anything like that. I always have been a clean fighter, always will be a clean fighter. And it's one of the least of my concerns. Manny Pacquiao, we've watched him. He doesn't look 10 years younger. He doesn't look like his strength and conditioning is beyond a 40-year-old who is naturally an athlete, somebody who's been active for the past year. You know, he's been very active and he stayed in shape. So he doesn't look anything out of the norm. And whatever the promoters request, we do. There will be testing, just like every fight that's a world championship fight, before and after the fight, as the people that came and tested us a few weeks ago. So, you know, I mean, that to me, that's petty stuff. And, yeah, I mean, I always say take steroids if you want, because you might actually need it, you know. I don't really care, you know. There's a lot of people out here that fight in the streets. You know, there's heavyweights popping positive. But we all know heavyweights are fat and lazy, you know, not welterweights. Heavyweights are fat and lazy, you know. So it just is what it is, man. It's never been a major concern throughout my career. I test clean at every time. So it's whatever, man.
Our next question is going to come from Manuk Akopian. Please go ahead, from PBC.
Hi, Keith. Thanks for taking the time out of your day. I wanted to talk to you about your training regimen. On the PBC Countdown, you obviously, it was documented that you went to the wellness center. Just wanted to talk to you about yoga. How have you been incorporating yoga in your training for this camp as well?
I have not. So that is misinformation. You know, I'm definitely a fan of yoga. There's a lot of athletes who are fans of yoga in today's generation. Yoga has tremendous health benefits, especially in combined with meditation. Meditation also has health benefits, and you know, it helps with your stretching. It helps with your centering. It helps with your focus. Yoga can help with your breathing. You know, so I'm aware of a lot of the different modalities of what it can do for athletes, but in this specific training camp, I did not utilize yoga that much. I have a massage therapist who also stretches me, and he opens me up, and he keeps my muscles moving well, keeps my body moving well, and I stuck with those basics and a lot of hard training. It's hard to train twice a day and find time to stretch for an hour.
Gotcha. So was it specifically something you decided to not do this camp with the conscientiously because it didn't work for you previously, or what was the thought process in not going with the alternative and spiritual training programs that you usually go with?
I never do it. I don't think you've ever seen me on film in a training camp in the past. For the Sean Porter fight, Sean Porter did more yoga than I did. So I like yoga. I'll participate in yoga, but I'll participate it more in my off season than when I'm in season. I like to focus on my boxing, my strategy, and my technique to win each and every fight. And like I said, I have a stretching guy who will stretch me and keep my body open and moving properly. It's really hard for me to fit yoga into the overall regimen because I'm focused on training hard, strength and conditioning, and losing weight.
Gotcha. Thanks for clearing that up. And lastly, obviously with Manny Pacquiao, he's known for his stamina, his energy, his speed. How have you been preparing to kind of face an opponent that probably you haven't faced like that before from a stamina standpoint?
You know, at the end of the day, watching the tape and just knowing Pacquiao, you know, he is a guy who will produce numbers as long as you let him. You know, movement can always make it difficult for a fighter like Pacquiao to put out the output that they might want to put out, or an output that they're used to putting out. But movement can also neglect the activity of an overall fight. So it's not that, you know, I just know how boxing works. So if I ever feel like he's getting off a little too much, maybe I will increase some of my movement. At the same time, his conditioning is always great, but when I look back at film, there's not a lot of people that go to Manny Pacquiao's body. And I don't know if that's because of his small, short size. I don't know if it's difficult. You know, I remember Ellerby making a statement that Manny is an awkward fighter and that Keith might find himself in the ring having a little bit more difficulty than what he's mentally prepared for. And that can happen, or I can just hit him in the shit. So, you know, we'll find out real soon.
I love this dude.
It's real, baby. I'm real. That's
no, it is. It is. And that's why I respect it 100.
It looks like our last question is going to come from John Cutney from Reddit Boxing. Please go ahead.
Oh, hey, Keith. So do you remember the first time you heard about Manny Pacquiao, going way back? I think he was something like 12 when he made it. You were 12 when he made his HBO debut. Were you a fan of him during his prime?
No. I was really not a boxing fan at a young age. I was not a boxing spectator fan. I'm not a big fan of almost any sport because I'm not a spectator. You know, you want to talk basketball? Let's go play. You know, you want to. I can ice skate. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean I'm trying to go to a hockey game or anything of that nature. But when I was a young kid, I did roller hockey because I rollerbladed in Florida and we don't have ice out here. You know, so I love participating in sports. I'm not one that sits down, watches games, is a rah-rah, drinks beer. You know, that's not me because I live too much of an active lifestyle. I want to be put in the action. Put me in the game, coach. Give me a piece of the action, you know. So I started watching more professional boxing when I knew I was going to turn pro, and obviously I dominate most of my eyes through the welterweight division. So the first fight I really remember Manny Pacquiao off the top of my head would happen to be Pacquiao De La Hoya.
So just as a quick follow-up, so I guess you weren't as much of a fan of him coming up, but, you know, he was still an established star. Just wondering what it means to you now to, you know, having come this whole journey from an amateur to a pro to a world champion, now fighting an all-time great in Pacquiao. I mean, does this feel like a new phase of your career, new level of accomplishment to get to this fight?
I mean, I wanted this fight 6 years ago at the MGM Grand. I was talking to people like yourself with cameras in my face asking me, you know, what do you think about, you know, the Floyd-Pacquiao fight? Will it ever happen? You know, and we had opinions back then before the fight was ever made. And, you know, I'm like, shoot, you know, they could always make the fight with me. You know, I was always rated in the top 10, you know, for many, many, many years before I became world champion. I was there. So, you know, I just always thought that it would be a beautiful fight. I would always love the opportunity. And to have the opportunity right in front of me and we're counting down the days, I mean, it's just a beauty, man. I mean, it just shows that dreams do come true. Hard work and dedication, you know, you can make anything happen. And, you know, I fight in the ring wearing red, white, and blue because when Keith Thurman's in the ring, he's living out his American dream. I do not change my colors because I just have pride, I have passion, and I'm just grateful to live this life. So this is just an amazing, amazing opportunity. You know, Manny Pacquiao, towards the end of his career, almost 70 fights in his record. I mean, it's as if I'm fighting, you know, Sugar Ray Robinson himself. You know, it's as if I'm fighting Roberto Duran. You know, this is Manny Pacquiao. I mean, it's just a tremendous, tremendous feeling, and it's going to feel even greater when my hand is raised at the end of the night.
Thank you so much for being so generous with your time today, Keith. Good luck.
Yeah, it's almost dinner time, boys.
All right, at this time, we really appreciate Keith taking out, you know, precious moments from his training camp. Obviously, as he always is, very kind and friendly to the media around the world. Keith, before we let you go, if you have any final statement before you get set for your showdown next Saturday, July 20th against Manny Pacquiao, PBC on Fox Sports pay-per-view.
I mean, thank you guys for being in support of this tremendous event. You know, obviously this is one of the biggest events of the year, but I still thank you all from all around the world. I'm here today. I'll be here tomorrow. I got I'm not afraid to let it go. If he beats me, he beats me, but I'm going to be putting on a show July 20th. Don't miss it.
Keith, thank you so much. Keith is excited. The world is excited. Las Vegas is excited. For those of you that cannot be in Las Vegas, you can order the fight. PBC on Fox Sports pay-per-view, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 Pacific time. Don't forget, tickets are still available if you're planning on making your way to the fighting capital of the world. All brought to you by MP Promotions, TGB Promotions, and Mayweather Promotions. You can get them online, AXS.com, on the phone, 866-740-7711, or at the MGM Resorts International Box Office. Thank you so much to Keith Thurman and everyone involved in today's call. We will see you next week in Las Vegas for Manny Pacquiao taking on the WBA welterweight champion of the world, the undefeated Keith Thurman. We'll see you next week in the fighting capital of the world. Thank you all.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining. You now disconnect and have a great day.